My name's Noah. I'm 28 years old, and up until about a month back, I was crashing in the guest room at my parents' place. Not because I wanted to, it was the last thing I wanted, honestly. If I'd had any other option, I would have taken it. But life has a funny way of not going the way you thought it would. After I got my computer science degree, I landed a pretty solid job at a mid-sized tech company. Things were actually looking up. Then the pandemic rolled in like a wrecking ball. The company started cutting back, and yep, you guessed it, I was one of the first to be shown the door. Over the next year and a half, I sent out what felt like a million job applications. I got a few interviews here and there, but none of them led anywhere. Eventually, I ran out of money, plain and simple. I had no choice but to head back to my folks' house. I figured it'd be temporary. They didn't quite see it that way. At first, it wasn't totally miserable. My dad, Ethan, kept to himself mostly. He's the kind of guy who operates on a don't ask, don't tell policy. My mom, Linda, different story. She made sure I felt the weight of every meal I ate, every time I turned on a light. This isn't a hotel, she'd remind me. Weekly, if not more. And God forbid I left a dirty cup in the sink. She'd sigh like the whole neighborhood needed to hear how put out she was. I tried to tell myself she was just stressed. But the snide Ethans started turning into straight-up jabs. You know, your cousin Sophie just bought a house, and she's 2 years younger than you, she'd say while wiping down the same already clean kitchen counter for the 5th time. Or sometimes it was, it's really sad that you're still here. And the kicker, when your father and I were your age, we were raising you. That one always hit hard. I wasn't sitting around doing nothing either. I cooked, cleaned, mowed the lawn, fixed the Wi-Fi every time it freaked out. I was picking up freelance gigs where I could, building websites for local shops, helping friends get their online businesses off the ground. I wasn't just loafing around watching TV. But in her eyes, none of it counted. To her, I was just a freeloader. And it didn't help that my little brother, Caleb, was their star child. He's 24, works in finance, lives in a fancy high-rise, and makes sure everyone knows it. He only shows up for holidays or if mom begs him to come for dinner. But when he walks through the door, it's like the second coming. Mom lights up, voice turns all sweet. There's my baby. You look amazing. Been working out. Meanwhile, I'm off in the corner holding a bag of recycling, trying to be invisible. One night, Caleb came by for dinner, and I could feel the tension brewing before we even sat down. I was setting the table like always, tossing down mismatched plates without much care. 'Cause let's face it, they made it clear I didn't belong there. Caleb barely even said hello. He threw out some line about gas prices and how some people are lucky they don't have to commute. I let it slide. But then Mom poured him a drink, laughed way too hard at one of his jokes, and turned to me like she was flipping a switch. Have you even tried applying to real jobs lately? She asked. I felt my chest tighten. I'd literally told her earlier that week I had 2 interviews lined up. But clearly she hadn't listened. Caleb chimed in, not even looking at me when he said, at some point, it stops being bad luck and starts being bad decisions. That was the moment something broke. I didn't blow up, didn't throw a fit. I just picked up my plate, walked to the kitchen, and stood there eating at the counter like I was 12 again. I could hear them in the dining room, still laughing. I didn't catch every word, but a few cut through. Can't baby him forever. Needs to grow up. It's honestly embarrassing. The next day, I was sitting in the den working on a freelance job, redesigning a local bakery's website, when my mom walked in. No knock. She never knocks. She stood there, arms crossed, already locked and loaded. You need to start paying rent, she said, just like that. I nodded. We'd had this talk before. I reminded her I was getting paid once I finished the site. I'm not talking about eventually, she snapped. I mean now. Today. I just looked at her. You want a check from money I don't even have? She didn't flinch. No, Noah. I want you to grow up. This has gone on long enough. We've done our part. You're just a leech, living off of us. That word, leech, hit harder than I thought it would. She said it with this look like I was something gross she found on her shoe. I didn't even get a chance to say anything before she turned, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and stormed back in. She tossed it at my feet. Go leech somewhere else. I didn't argue, didn't cry. I just zipped it up, grabbed my laptop, charger, toothbrush, and walked out. Didn't say a single word. All I could hear was that word, Leech, echoing behind me as I headed down the driveway. For a while, I bounced around, slept on my buddy Miles's couch for a bit, then stayed a few nights with my ex, who was cool enough to let me crash while I figured things out. As rough as it was, being on my own pushed me to hustle harder. I picked up more freelance work, even helped a local artist launch a site to sell her prints. Then one night, out of nowhere, I got a message on LinkedIn from a recruiter who'd seen my portfolio. Within a week, I was interviewing for a remote gig with a tech startup. And I got the job. It didn't pay crazy Silicon Valley money or anything, but it was solid. Covered the bills, had full benefits, and best of all, I could work from anywhere. So I did something even I didn't expect. I took the money I'd been saving from freelancing and signed the lease on a studio apartment. Small, but all mine. No one could kick me out. No one could call me a burden. About 3 weeks after moving in, I was wrapping up a project when I noticed a missed call from my dad. First time I'd heard from him since I left. Not even a "how's it going?" I let it go to voicemail. Then another call came. Then a text. Why did the bank freeze our account? I blinked. What? Then it hit me. Something I hadn't thought about in weeks. Back when I was out of work, my dad had asked me for a favor. He was sick of driving to the bank and figured since I was decent with computers, I could help them get everything set up online. So I handled the whole thing, set up their mobile banking, linked their account to their tax software, walked him through each step like I was tech support. We even added my email and phone number as the backup contacts. I got listed as a secondary admin on their joint account. Not so I could spend anything, but in case something went sideways and they needed help. And guess what? That access was still active. I didn't reply right away. Just sat there, staring at the text like it might change if I waited long enough. I could see the scene in my head. Mom pacing around the dining room, Dad fumbling with the app, probably getting more and more frustrated, maybe even calling customer support only to find out they were locked out and needed the secondary admin me to get back in. That's when I typed out a reply. Ask the leech. No smiley face. No explanation. Just those 3 words. Less than an hour later, everything blew up. I hadn't even finished making a sandwich before my phone lit up again. Mom this time. 3 missed calls in 5 minutes. Then the text started pouring in. Noah, this isn't funny. Call your father. We can't pay the credit card. Are you seriously doing this to us after everything we've done for you? Fix this. Now. I didn't respond. Not right away. For the first time in a long time, I had something they couldn't ignore. I wasn't looking for revenge or trying to be spiteful. I just wanted them to actually see me for once. I wanted them to understand I wasn't the lazy screw-up they painted me to be. I was the one quietly keeping things afloat in the background, paying their bills online, running their antivirus updates, making sure their taxes got filed on time. Hell, I even flagged a sketchy charge on their card before they ever noticed. But to them, I was still the mooch, the problem, the disappointment. That night, a call came in from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Noah, my dad said, trying to keep his voice calm. But I could hear the tension crackling underneath. We can't get into our bank account. It's locked, and apparently you're listed as the secondary admin. I don't know what you did, but I didn't do anything, I said, trying to keep my tone steady. The system locked it after too many wrong attempts. Okay, fine, he said, trying to regroup. Just help us unlock it. There was a beat of silence. I didn't say anything. Please. That word hung there, awkward and unfamiliar coming from him, like his mouth wasn't used to forming it. Sure, I said slowly. But first, we need to talk. Another pause. Like why your wife yelled at me in front of Caleb, called me a leech, and tossed my stuff out like I was trash. Noah, let's not. No, we are going there. You want me to clean up this mess? Then you're going to shut up and listen for once. No interruptions. No excuses. Just listen. He let out a long sigh, but stayed on the line. I didn't want to move back in. I didn't want to be there. But I did everything I could to help while I was. I cooked meals. I cleaned the house. I fixed the things you two didn't know how to fix. I picked up freelance gigs. They didn't pay much, but they covered my food, and I gave you gas money when the car broke down. And in return, I got treated like I didn't belong at my own damn dinner table. Noah, I'm not finished. My voice cracked a little. All those years of swallowing my feelings started spilling out, fast and raw. She called me a leech. She threw me out. And you just stood there. You let it happen. Silence. She humiliated me. Right there in front of Caleb. Like I was some sad loser. But the truth? That bank account you're freaking out about? It's been running like clockwork because I've been keeping it that way. You didn't even know how to reset your password without me. Okay, he mumbled. You've made your point. No. Not yet, I haven't. I got up and started pacing my tiny apartment, still clutching the phone. You both acted like I was some pathetic case you needed to kick while I was already down. And now? Now you need me. He went quiet again. Yes, he finally said. We do. Those words hit me in the gut, not in a satisfying way, but more like a sucker punch. Because it confirmed something I think I already knew. They didn't care about why I was struggling. They only noticed me when I was useful. Even so, I wasn't gonna leave them high and dry. That's not who I am. But I also wasn't about to sweep this under the rug like I always had. So I laid down some terms. I'd unlock the account, but first I wanted an apology. A real one. From both of them. In person. And no half-hearted sorry while Dad stared at his shoes and Mom acted like nothing ever happened. I wanted genuine acknowledgement. And I wanted space. No asking for favors for 6 months. No guilt trips. No popping by unannounced. And one more thing, I told him I'd be removing myself from every single one of their financial accounts, permanently. You're on your own from now on, I said. Or maybe Caleb can help. He seems to have it all figured out. Dad sighed again. She's not gonna like this. Yeah, well, I didn't like being tossed out of my childhood home. There was a pause. I'll talk to her, he said. Then the call ended. I noticed my hands were shaking, some mix of adrenaline, nerves, and something else I couldn't quite place. I'd never spoken to my dad like that before. Ever. But I didn't feel guilty. Not this time. 2 days later, I finally heard back. It was an email from my mom. Short. Formal, almost like a letter you'd send to a stranger. It started with, I realize I said things I shouldn't have. And ended with, we hope you're doing well. No, love, Mom. No signature. Just that. But hey, I got what I asked for. After I unlocked their bank account, I immediately removed myself from it for good. Then I blocked their number. Just for a week, not to get back at them, but to finally catch my breath. I needed space to think without my phone buzzing with guilt trips and drama. That's when the real fallout began. Because here's the thing, when the person quietly doing all the behind-the-scenes work walks away, when the so-called leech disappears, people finally realize how much they depended on them. And I didn't hear about any of it through a call or a message. Nope. I found out the same way everyone else finds out about family chaos these days, through Instagram. My cousin Ava had posted a boomerang from Sunday brunch at Grandma's. Just a few seconds long, but it told me everything I needed to know. There was my mom, stiff as a board at the far end of the table, clutching a full wine glass like it was a grenade. Lips pursed so tight, you'd think she'd just bitten a lemon. Dad sat beside her, rubbing his temples like he'd just failed a test he didn't study for. Caleb was across from them, and for once, the smug look on his face was replaced with a scowl. The caption? When the group project loses the only one who knew what they were doing. Hashtag family drama. I shot Ava a DM, what happened? She replied instantly. Elmeo, your mom's been locked out of online banking for a week. She tried again this morning and made it worse. Caleb showed up to help and somehow broke it even more. Now she's saying you sabotaged everything. I stared at my phone, just stunned. Not even angry, just worn out. A deep, soul-level kind of tired. Because there it was again. That same pattern. No matter how much I did for them, no matter how quietly I kept things running, the moment something broke, they needed someone to blame. And I was always the easiest target. And it didn't stop at the bank account. Apparently, after I removed myself from their tax software, Dad realized he never saved the login for the new system I set up for him last year. When he called support, they asked him to verify last year's return. But that return? I filed it. From my email. Using a password stored in my private Google Drive, one he didn't have access to anymore. Now, that alone could have been fixed. But then Caleb, bless his genius, decided to just start fresh. He tried making a new account using Dad's social security number, which immediately flagged the system for possible identity theft and locked everything. Their tax software, online banking, HSA portal, gone. They couldn't access a single cent. Ava texted me the whole story like she was live-tweeting a drama series. Your mom told Grandma she thinks you hacked everything as payback face with tears of joy. I just texted back. I warned them. And I had. I was clear. I gave them boundaries. Not threats. Just rules. Reasonable ones. But they treated it like I was bluffing. Like I was still the helpless kid on their couch with nothing to offer. About a week later, there was a knock on my apartment door. I didn't even have to check the peephole, I knew it was them. My building has this particular echo when someone's standing in the hall and their footsteps were slow, heavy, almost hesitant. I opened the door. There they were. My mom clutching her purse like a shield. My dad's tie was crooked like he'd rushed to get dressed. Neither one said a word. I stepped aside. If you're here to yell, save it. They walked in. The silence was thick, almost physical. A full minute passed before my mom finally cleared her throat. We need your help, she said. 3 weeks ago, this same woman had thrown my bag at my feet and told me to go leech somewhere else. And now here she was, standing in my little studio, glancing around at the cheap IKEA furniture and cold takeout containers, asking me for help. It felt surreal. Dad tried to explain what happened, but I already knew. Caleb had tried to step up, made things worse, and then vanished. Probably too embarrassed to admit the thing he couldn't fix didn't come with a spreadsheet. We can't even get into our joint savings, Mom said, her voice quiet. We missed the mortgage payment. There are late fees. I nodded. Yeah, that's rough. Must feel like you're stuck. She looked up at me, and for once, she didn't look smug or annoyed, just tired. Just human. Then her voice shook a little. I'm sorry, she said. I blinked. Not a snide, under-her-breath apology. Not dressed up in sarcasm or denial. Just, I'm sorry. Dad added, we didn't realize how much you were doing. We thought letting you stay with us was generous. He paused. But we didn't see it. What you were actually doing. That was when the dam broke. Not for them, for me. All that weight I'd been dragging around. The resentment. The rejection. The hurt. It all spilled out. Not in yelling. Not in some dramatic meltdown. Just honesty. I told them what it was like being compared to Caleb all the time. How no matter how hard I tried, their approval always felt like it was tied to success, never effort. How getting kicked out didn't just hurt, it made me feel like I didn't matter. My mom sat there, frozen. Each word seemed to land like a slap she wasn't ready for. I didn't know, she whispered. And I believe her. Kind of. I think she didn't want to know. And that's different. They asked me to come back, to help out, get things back in order. Said they'd pay me. Promised things would be different this time. But I shook my head. I'll walk you through it. I'll write up steps for everything. But I'm not coming back. I told them I had a job. I had a lease. I had peace. They looked around like this tiny apartment was some kind of rebellion. But to me, it was freedom. It was mine. I grabbed my laptop and sat them down. It took about 2 hours. I reset all their logins, helped them verify their IDs, even sat on hold with tech support for a bit. My mom didn't say much. Just sat there quietly while I worked. While my dad muttered, "This is ridiculous," under his breath for the third time, trying to answer yet another security question, I stayed quiet. Just let him stew in it. Once everything was finally back online and untangled, I closed my laptop and stood up. I'll send you that instruction doc, I told them. But after that, I'm out. No more admin access. No more being your go-to-tech guy. You're adults. You'll figure it out. They stood up too. My dad gave a slow nod, almost like respect or something close to it. My mom looked like she had a lot to say but didn't. Just clutched her purse tighter and walked out. And as the door shut behind them, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Freedom. Someone who would fix things without being asked twice, whether it was out of guilt, fear, or some worn-out hope that maybe, this time, they'd say thank you. But that version of me? He was gone. I didn't even hear about the tax audit from them. Not a peep. Of course, it was Ava who spilled the tea. She messaged me out of nowhere. Your mom's been in a mood all week. Apparently your dad screwed up the taxes, and she said if the leech was still around, this wouldn't have happened. LOL. That was it. Right there. Even after everything, after the apology, after the reset, after I helped clean up a mess I didn't make, she still called me that. Not to my face, of course. But behind closed doors, where she assumed no one would challenge her. Where the version of me she created could still exist unchecked. And honestly, that should have hurt. It used to hurt. But this time it didn't crack me open. It didn't sting. It didn't even surprise me, because by then I had something stronger than her words. I had proof. Proof that her idea of who I was had never been real. That I wasn't some freeloading disappointment, some permanent screw-up orbiting their household like deadweight. I had a job that challenged me. Teammates who counted on me. A lease with my name on it. Friends who showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to. I had a landlord who actually trusted me. A bank account that didn't need anyone's approval. A digital life I had built from scratch, no safety net, no training wheels, no one pulling strings behind the curtain. And on one cold evening in Toronto, sitting in the glow of my desk lamp, I pulled up my old Google Drive. There it was, tucked away in the archives like some digital relic. Banking for mom and dad, do not delete. One last folder. One last tie. I stared at it for a second. Then I clicked delete. No hesitation. No ceremony. Just one click. Gone. And right after that, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I smiled. Because leeches don't build lives. People do. And in that quiet moment, with the city lights flickering beyond my window and the hum of my laptop in the background, I remembered something I hadn't felt in years. Who I was. And finally, who I was becoming.